All right, so here's a quick roundup of the visual timetable example, maybe done in a more clear manner. The reference for this is this visual timetable of, I believe it's trains traveling from Paris to Lyon, or in this case, Lyon to Paris. And you can see trains that are going from Lyon are traveling this way, and they have a positive slope, whereas trains from Paris are going down this way. And I just wanted to outline one path of a train, and this is the thing that we're trying to recreate. We're trying to show time is on the bottom, and we're trying to show sort of time and distance. And the slope of this line is going to indicate, how fast it's going. So right here, it's pretty steep. It's going pretty fast. Then it looks like it stops at a station, so it's flat. And then it goes up here, maybe a little bit less steep. So this is giving us a lot of information, and I want to show you how we can go about doing this with Google Sheets and Adobe Illustrator. So let's go to Google Sheets real quick. Here's a spreadsheet, and I'm going to do this with a TriMet bus schedule. The things I'll need for this are distance, because we're going to map distance along the y-axis, the vertical axis. I'm going to go and use Google Maps to get the distances. What I'll do is copy and paste these stops here. And what I'm doing actually might not be 100% accurate, because I'm going to just use driving distances in between these stops. What I'll do is I'll select this, look for directions, and I'll use the driving directions because it gives me the distance. So I'll take the next stop, and it looks like it kind of switched the order of these, so you can reverse the starting point and end point. So this is the first stop, Broadway and Burnside, as you can see, and then 5th and Broadway is the next stop. So let's say it's 1.3 miles. Here's my spreadsheet right now. I started, what I want to do is have the distance for each leg and the distance that it's traveled. So the first point, and I want to start at 0 because 0 is the very first stop. The first distance, the first leg is going to be 1.3 according to this data. And let me go ahead and what I'll do is I'll just kind of grab these stops and just keep putting them in here. I think so. 5th and Broadway was the second stop. We'll see what the distance is for that. It says, let's say 5 miles. Okay, so we're going to add the distance for each leg, 5. And I'm just going to do these first few stops. Let's say 1 mile. So again, this data might not be totally correct because the bus route might be slightly different, but the most important thing is you're trying to learn this technique. And the last stop, it's going to go from Vermont and Chestnut to Vermont and Idaho. Just copying and pasting that in, and that distance looks like 1.6. Okay, so this is the distance for each leg, and now what I want to do is add these up, and so I get the total distance traveled. One way I can do that is by adding the sum. In this case, we'll start with this. The sum plus the distance that has been traveled. So we're referencing these two cells. We're using this formula. I'm using a comma because I just want those two values. I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to give, say, 1.3. I could do the autofill. Again, the other thing I could do is click and drag this, and that should just be adding all these distances up so that I have the total distance, because we're going to use that to map or to create our chart. The other thing we're going to need is the time, like 6:44, 6:54, 7:03, 7:06. And I believe the last stop was 713. Okay. The next issue that we've talked about is that these numbers cannot be put into Illustrator or any graphing tool in this way because Illustrator wants to read decimal numbers. So we're going to take this value and we'll run a formula on it. The formula I'm using is this index and a formula, and I'm going to split things up. In a previous video, I talked about how you could get the decimals using, getting the value and dividing by 60, but this is going to do it right away. So I'm just going to grab this, and I want to make sure my cells are referencing the right numbers. So we're going to take C2 in this case, and then use this formula on it, and we should see, 644 is, when converted to decimal, is 6.73. Let's get all those values from here and move on to the next part. Okay, so we're going to need to build a graph on this page. We're going to grab the graph tool here. The type that I want is a scatter graph, and I can draw how big I think I want it. And let's go to our spreadsheet and grab the data that we'll be using. So we'll go and grab the distance total, and we're going to graph that. I'm going to copy and paste that into here, and you can see that should change the scale of this side. And then we're going to grab time in decimal form. And those two numbers are going to be mapped. So distance will be up here and time will be here. And I'm going to hit check. And now we're able to see, hopefully you see this relationship. We start at 0 miles traveled. Up here it's 1.3 miles. Here it's 6.3 miles. And you can see time is being mapped along this way. If we had another line that we wanted to map, if, for example, we took this 833, 843, 853, so this is another bus on the same line, 56 and 902. Let's apply the same formula to this. So a quick way to show another bus traveling on the same route is to put those times here. So this is times, and then these distances are the same that are traveled. So we'll copy and paste those there, and if we leave this, leave a line here or an empty cell here, it should create two disconnected lines. And so we can see, on this bus route, and I'm gonna just label this quickly. This is time. And then this side is distance. So that's a quick overview of how to make this type of visual timetable using Google Sheets and Illustrator.